Let's test our limits. Let's think about how far we can go, what we think we're able to do, and what we think we're not able to do. For example, do you think you could spend one entire year in a room with no windows, no entertainment, no furniture, and most importantly, no other people? You are completely alone. You are given water and basic food, enough to survive. But the food and water is put in the room when you are asleep. You never get to interact with anyone. After 1 year, you are released from the room and given $50 million. Do you think you could do it? I'm sure some of you would say, heck yeah, $50 million. I'll do that, no problem. And maybe you can. But would you still be sane afterwards? Isolation can drive us mad. Some people, I'm sure, would say no to this opportunity. The risk of insanity isn't worth it. The mental effects of extended isolation has been studied, and these studies don't have a happy ending. People left in isolation report feelings of anxiety, depression, and often experience hallucinations and a decline in mental health in general. Humans aren't meant to be alone. But if you do decide to go through with it, what would your plan be? How would you measure time? I guess you wouldn't be able to. But at least you could try to get into routine of some kind to keep your mind busy. For example, every time you wake up, you complete a long, low-intensity exercise routine. 100 squats, 100 push-ups, 400 sit-ups mixed up with some anxious pacing and screaming. Meditation could work, I guess. You can imagine what you're going to spend all that money on. But a year is a long time. Even if you sleep as much as you can, eat your meals with a methodical, tedious slowness, and become really good at your own personal style of yoga, you might lose your mind anyway. Is it a risk worth taking? Let me know in the comments. Okay, what else can we test ourselves with? How about something physical? Do you think you could complete an extreme endurance challenge for $100,000? For example, running 100 miles, which is approximately 161 kilometers for our metric friends. If you have to complete the 161-kilometer run within 24 hours, would you take on the challenge? Obviously, if you're already an endurance athlete, you'd most likely accept the challenge. But if you're not trained and only get your heart rate up when you see a sale on glazed fudge donuts, it might seem daunting, or even impossible. You might be able to do it, but it will definitely hurt. It's also very possible that you don't finish, and you're found lying on the side of the road, groaning in pain, dehydrated, and mumbling, "Did I get close to finishing?" And then listen to the words, "You ran 4 kilometers, dude. You barely even started," before you start weeping while hallucinating vultures circling above you. I think I'd give it a try at least. Alexander Sorokin ran 100 miles in just over 10 hours, 51 minutes. That's the fastest ever recorded. We have over twice that time. And a man named Doyle Carpenter completed a 100-mile run at the age of 84. It took longer than 24 hours, but still pretty frickin' impressive. Imagine you could run another 100 miles the next day for double the money, and again the day after that. How many days do you think you could go on for? What about an Ironman? Would that be easier? That's a 3.9 kilometers swim, 180 kilometers bike, and then, to top it off, a marathon-length run. All within 24. The average finishing time is actually around 13 hours, so you might have a chance of finishing within 24 hours even without training. Sean Conway did 102 consecutive Ironmans, day after day, swimming, pedaling, running, sleep, repeat. And he did that to beat James Lawrence, who did 101 consecutive Ironmans. And they did it for free. I'm sure you could do at least one for 100,000 smackaroonies. Anyway, let's think of another one. How about silence? How long do you think you'd be able to stay silent for if you receive $1 for every 10 minutes of silence? It may not seem like much, but the money can build up. You'd be able to get $144 a day. That's $1,008 a week. And if you spend the whole year without saying a word, you'd get $52,560. Not bad. How long do you think you would do it for? And what do you think would break you? Remember, you can't make any noise, you can't even laugh. Don't worry, though, farting is allowed, as long as you don't laugh afterwards. Let's say the terms of the challenge include the caveat that you can't tell anyone why you're silent. You also can't use writing to communicate. This means when anyone asks why you're not saying anything, you can either shrug your shoulders or just stare at them blankly until they go away. So, how long do you think you could go for? If you stay silent long enough, you may never have to work again. But when you really want to tell someone some gossip, you can never spill the tea. You can't even tell someone to shut the fudge up when they're rambling on about how many exotic fish they saw on their snorkeling trip to the Maldives. Anyway, let's move on. Do you think you could stay awake for a week for $50,000? The longest I've ever stayed awake is around 48 hours, but a week is 168 hours. I'm not 100% sure I could do it. I love sleep. And when I'm feeling sleepy, I find the pull of sleep to be like ecstasy. It's very hard to resist. Imagine fighting that for hours and hours and hours. Even thinking about it is making me tired.
I'm drained. I'm completely drained.
The longest recorded time anyone has stayed awake is 264 hours. That's about 11 days. So we know it's possible. That was done by a man named Randy Gardner. I promise that's a real name.
Wow.
And that was in 1964. No one has beaten the record since. Probably because it's horrible to be forced to stay awake when you're super frickin' tired. How would you even keep yourself awake? Cold showers? Super strong coffee? Jumping up and down? Pouring hot sauce in your eyes? Whatever you choose, it sucks. But then again, imagine finally going to sleep after 7 days knowing you'll have a lot of extra clams in your bank account. That would be a sweet sleep. And when you finally wake up, you can stroll on down to the nearest cheesecake factory and not worry about the prices. Anyway, do you think you could do it? Let me know, down below, what you would do for that dough. For show. Okay, I gotta go, teacups. Please subscribe. Let's keep the tea flowing. Love you. Bye.